having no malice whatsoever. They're gonna say,
What's up, everybody? I just had to stop. I was watching WCW Nitro from 97 on the network. Just had to stop it. Anyways, this video you're watching right now is The Year in Wrestling 1998 Part 3. This is Part 3 about 98. And I'm going to kick it off talking about the first Raw that defeated Nitro for the first time in probably over a year and a half. It was in April of 98 that Raw defeated WCW Nitro in the ratings for the first time in a year and a half. Maybe close to 2 years. Anyways, it was in April Raw. It was the Raw where Stone Cold Steve Austin took on Mr. McMahon in their first one-on-one match. It wasn't much of a match because they screwed Stone Cold. He had one arm tied behind his back in the match. He had to compete with one arm tied behind his back. And then Vince, I believe, slapped Stone Cold in the face to start it off. And then Dude Love, Mick Foley, comes down to the ring and turns on Stone Cold Steve Austin and puts him in the mandible claw. And then that set up the Dude Love versus Stone Cold Steve Austin title match at Unforgiven, the next pay-per-view that I'm about to talk about. I just wanted to start it off saying, in April 98, WWF Raw finally defeated Nitro in the ratings for the first time in a very long time. So that was good for the WWF. And WCW, I don't think they may have won. I think when Goldberg won the title in the summer of 98, WCW probably won on that Monday night. But I guess they trade back and forth victories between Raw and Nitro. Both of them would be winners on Monday night until probably the end of the summer of 98 is when WWF just started owning Nitro and just kicking their ass, and Nitro is way too far behind. They could not catch up to the WWF anymore, and they couldn't even get close to beating Raw in the ratings. So now I'm going to talk about WWF Unforgiven. Pay-per-view took place on April 26th, 98. First match was a six-man tag. Ken Shamrock, Steve Blackman, and Farouk defeated the team of the Nation of Domination, The Rock, D'Lo Brown, and Mark Henry. European champion Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeated Owen Hart to retain the European title. I believe China was suspended above the ring in a cage, in like a shark cage, or whatever the hell it was called. I hear my phone ringing, but I am not going to get up to get it. They can just leave me a message. Anyways, up next, NWA Tag Team Champions, the Midnight Express. Nobody cared about the NWA Tag Team titles or WWF trying to recreate and bring back the NWA. It made no sense and it was stupid. The new Midnight Express defeats the Rock and Roll Express. So I guess they retained the NWA Tag Team titles, which meant nothing in the WWF. Up next, Luna Vachon beat and defeated Sable in an evening gown match. World Tag Team Champions, the New Age Outlaws, defeated and retained their titles against LOD 2000. The Undertaker defeated Kane in an Inferno match. First ever Inferno match in WWE history. It's pretty legendary and it was pretty epic and it was really fun to watch and see the Inferno match when they started the flames to come out of the damn thing. It looked like the ring, around the ring, outside the ring, or around it, outside the ropes, it looked like the ring was on fire. It was pretty awesome, and I enjoyed the first Inferno match. Two perfect guys to put in it, Undertaker and Kane. They were feuding at the time, so two perfect guys to put in it. If my voice sounds messed up, probably is because my throat, feel like I got spit, like I got crap in it. Anyways, I'll continue. So, The Undertaker defeats Kane in the first ever Inferno match. As I said, it was a legendary, and I really enjoyed it. Last Inferno match they had, I believe, was like 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago at a SummerSlam pay-per-view, Kane versus Bray Wyatt. It was decent, it was okay, but they should keep the Inferno match retired. They shouldn't bring it back anymore. The main event was Dude Love challenging for the WWF Championship against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Dude Love would defeat Stone Cold Steve Austin by disqualification. Vince McMahon came down, got involved on the outside of the ring. I believe he's trying to help up Dude Love, and Stone Cold got a chair and cracked Vince McMahon on top of the head with it. Cracked him with the chair. Vince McMahon goes down like he was knocked out cold. That was awesome. And great selling by Vince McMahon, taking that chair shot and going down. Great selling by him. And then before this pay-per-view, Unforgiven 98, but after WrestleMania on Raw, you had Vince McMahon bring out the new champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he was dressed in a suit. And then he took a picture with Vince McMahon in the ring holding the title, and Vince was holding the title, and Vince wanted Stone Cold to be the corporate champion and to dress like a champion. But that wasn't Stone Cold. He wasn't going to do it. He was a rattlesnake. He was not going to be a corporate champion, and he was not going to be Vince's bitch. So, my goddamn phone's ringing again. It's fucking annoying. Anyways, what the hell was I going to say? On Raw, Vince wanted Stone Cold to be the corporate champion. He was dressed in a suit, and he just won the title at WrestleMania. So, Stone Cold took the suit off, ripped it off, threw it off, and basically took the suit off. And he had a Stone Cold shirt under it and his wrestling tights. And then he gave Vince a low blow, nut shot, and then he stunned him. That was great. Crowd loved it. Crowd popped. And that was awesome to see Vince get another stunner. The second ever stunner he would get from Stone Cold. He got the first in September of 97 from Madison Square Garden on a Raw. And he got another after WrestleMania 14. Vince got another stunner. So that was Unforgiven. I enjoyed the pay-per-view and I thought it was good. Now I'm going to talk about WCW. Let me get paper here. I'm going to talk about WCW Spring Stampede that took place, I believe, in April. WCW Spring Stampede took place on April 19th, 98, from Denver, Colorado. First match was La Parka defeating Psychosis. And it was a good match. Both guys could work, and they were both really good high flyers in cruiserweights. Up next, Bill Goldberg defeated Perry Saturn. Decent match. Especially for Goldberg. He wasn't a great worker, really, ever. But he was decent. He didn't really need to be a great worker. He had the intensity. That's all he really needed was a spear and a jackhammer. That's all he really needed to do. But Perry Saturn helped out Goldberg a lot and got a good match out of Goldberg. Did Saturn. Up next, television champion Booker T defeated Chris Benoit. This was a series of their matches. They had a best of 7 series. It was awesome. And I believe this was like match number 1, 2, or 3 in this series. And it was awesome. And Booker T retains. And their series would take them from Spring Stampede in April all the way to Great American Bash 98, where I think it was match number 7 for the TV title, and they would have other matches in the series on Nitros. Up next, Cruiserweight Champion Chris Jericho defeated Prince Iaukea to retain the Cruiserweight title. Ultimo Dragon defeated Chavo Guerrero Jr. Kurt Hennig defeated Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. It was really odd. Again, it was odd for me to see Kurt Hennig, Bret Hart, in WCW. British Bulldog was in WCW in 93, but it was pretty odd to see him return in 98. And I don't think really many people cared that Davey Boy Smith and Jim Neidhart went to WCW in 98. Nobody really cared. They were even there. A lot of people probably didn't even know and forgot that they were there in WCW. So Kurt Hennig defeats Davey Boy Smith. Raven defeats U.S. champion Diamond Dallas Page to win the United States Championship. And then Raven, I think, maybe the next night, or maybe a couple weeks later, Raven would lose the U.S. title on a Monday Nitro to Goldberg. And that would kick off, and they basically were really pushing Goldberg. Goldberg winning the U.S. title would really kick off his push and just push him even more and get him even more over with the fans. Giving him the U.S. title and defeating Raven the way he did. He destroyed Raven on Nitro. I think it was in May, maybe in May of 98 or April, where he won the U.S. title from Raven. Did Goldberg. So Raven wins the U.S. title from DDP at Spring Stampede. Up next, Rick Steiner and Lex Luger defeated Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell. Kevin Nash and Hollywood Hogan defeated the team of Rowdy Piper and the Giant in a bat match. I guess, if I remember right, they had a baseball bat hanging in the corner of the ring. They had to climb up a pole to get the bat. And that was just a stupid gimmick match. I don't know why you put Piper and the Giant together. I know they're Team WCW, but that team didn't fit. And then after Spring Stampede, the Giant would join the NWO again. So that made no sense. Whatever. It was a mess. I'm sure it was a mess of a match. Hollywood Hogan and Kevin Nash win. The main event was Randy Macho Man Savage defeating World Heavyweight Champion Sting for the title. So Macho Man Randy Savage would win and become WCW World Heavyweight Champion. But I don't think it lasted very long, because on a Nitro in 98, I believe Kevin Nash or somebody interfered. I think it was Randy Savage versus Hollywood Hogan for the WCW World title. And somebody from the NWO interfered. I think Kevin Nash interfered, or somebody interfered. And Randy Savage lost the WCW World title back to Hollywood, or not back to him, but he lost it to Hollywood Hogan on a Nitro after he beat Sting for it. So then, Hollywood Hogan would not even hold the World Heavyweight Championship that long after winning it on Nitro. I think he won it on Nitro. I'm pretty sure. It wasn't a pay-per-view where Hollywood Hogan defeated Randy Savage. I think it was a Monday Nitro. Anyways, then Hollywood Hogan would only hold on to it until July of 98, 1 or 2 months maybe, and then lose it to Goldberg. So, main event of Spring Stampede, Randy Savage versus Sting. I enjoyed it, and it was cool to see those guys wrestle in a one-on-one matchup, because I'm a fan of both of them. And I was a fan of both of them in 98. So that Spring Stampede, pretty decent pay-per-view. Now I'm going to talk about ECW. First pay-per-view of May 98 was ECW WrestlePalooza 98 pay-per-view event. And it took place from Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, or wherever it was, somewhere in Georgia. Here we go with the first May pay-per-view of 98 was ECW WrestlePalooza 98. And in May you had 3 pay-per-views again from ECW, WWF, WCW. I don't know who the hell would order 3 pay-per-views in 1 month. I never did that. I did order 2 couple times in 99, in 2000, but that was it. Never ordered 3 in 1 month. That's a lot of pay-per-views, and you gotta be pretty much back in the day in 98 or 97 or 99. You had to be pretty much have a lot of money if you wanted to order ECW, WCW, and WWF pay-per-views. You had to have a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was only 15 years old in 99. So WrestlePalooza kicked off with a pretty entertaining, fun tag team matchup. It was a BWO, or well, the members that were left of the BWO. I don't think they called themselves a BWO. It was just a team of the Blue Mini and Supernova. And Supernova would go just to become Nova later. In ECW in 2000, he was just known as Nova, and he was a pretty damn good worker. And then he'd go to WWF in 2005 or 6 and become Simon Dean, that god-awful character. But he did make it work pretty well. So Blue Mini and Supernova defeat the team of the FBI, Tracy Smothers and Little Guido, and it was an entertaining match. They stopped the match in the beginning and they put on a dance contest against each other. Blue Mini started dancing to his music, to their music, and then the FBI and Tracy Smothers started dancing to their FBI music, which really sounded like the Bee Gees' Staying Alive song. That's what I think the FBI's theme really sounded like and was part of that song. Anyways, they had a dance contest. The crowd was really, really into this pay-per-view. The crowd was great for WrestlePalooza 98. And WrestlePalooza 98 was my first ever ECW pay-per-view that I saw live. I was at a friend's house, and he had ECW WrestlePalooza. He had it on pay-per-view, and him and me, we watched it together because we really wanted to see ECW and know what it was about. We were both really curious to see what ECW was, and it was pretty out of control what we saw, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But this was the first ECW pay-per-view I saw live, and I was pretty much hooked. From there, I wanted to see more ECW, but I couldn't because we didn't get their television show, and I didn't see another pay-per-view until March 99 when I ordered Living Dangerously 99, because that was the first ECW, or not the first, but ECW Living Dangerously was available on my cable system, so I thought I'd order it, and I was glad I did. And when I ordered Living Dangerously 99, every ECW pay-per-view after that I did order, because I was a big, big ECW fan. I loved their product, and I loved the style of wrestling and the hardcore style. I was a mark for ECW. So there's my ECW story. About how I got into ECW. WrestlePalooza 98 was the first ever live ECW wrestling show I ever saw. And then years after that, in the 2000s, I would go back and I did purchase some old ECW television shows off a website. This video website, I'm not going to mention their name, but whatever. I bought a lot of old ECW television shows to see the history of ECW and to watch what happened before 98 when I started watching. Up next was Just Incredible with Jason and Chastity. Where did Chastity come from? I don't know. I think the ECW founder, I think she was a stripper or a hooker. I'm not joking. I don't know if she stripped. She probably did before ECW. And she could have been a prostitute. I don't even know. One of the boys must have knew Chastity because they got her a job in ECW and brought her in. And she was probably a ring rat. And a lot of boys probably slept with her. That's probably another way she probably got hired and got a job in ECW. She probably slept with a lot of the boys. Anyways, Just Incredible defeats Mikey Whipwreck, and they put on a pretty good match. It was crazy. It was out of control. Me and my friend were pretty shocked watching it because Just Incredible at one time during the match on the outside of the ring threw Mikey Whipwreck into the first or second row. He threw him over the guardrail, and Mikey Whipwreck, basically his entire body weight landed on this little kid, this 8 or 9 year old kid, maybe 10 years old. Mikey Whipwreck's entire body weight landed on the kid, and he was sitting back in a chair at ringside, and he basically went like that and fell back into the chair with Mikey Whipwreck's body weight basically crushing the kid. So that was pretty shocking. So me and my friend laughed like hell because we thought it was funny as hell. It was out of control. We never seen that in WCW or WWF. A wrestler getting thrown into the crowd and basically landing on top of a kid. And before that, you had Rob Van Dam do a flip off the top rope in, I think, April 98 against Bam Bam Bigelow when he won the ECW TV title on an ECW television taping from Buffalo, New York. RVD did a front flip off the second rope over the guardrail onto Bam Bam Bigelow. That clip was shown many, many times for the opening of ECW TV and their pay-per-view opening, where they would show all their highlights and play the ECW theme. That clip of RVD doing a front flip into the crowd was shown many, many, many times for years and years. In ECW, that was insane. RVD, having the skill and athleticism to do a flip and clear the guardrail and go into the third or fourth row on the Bam Bam. That was insane, but it was awesome. Also, up next, Tag Team Champions Chris Candido and Lance Storm defeated the team of Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten. And I believe this was for the tag titles, and everybody knew Axel and Balls were not going to win the tag titles. Up next, Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman with Beulah McGillicuddy defeated the team of the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, along with Big Dick Dudley and Sign Guy Dudley and Joe Gertner. So the Dudleys lose to the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer. It was a pretty entertaining tag match. You had a couple weapons involved, and it was entertaining. It was an ECW style entertaining brawl. Up next, Bam Bam Bigelow defeated New Jack. And during this match, New Jack has spoken in interviews. He was knocked out during this match. He couldn't even get up. I think he suffered a really bad concussion. So Bam Bam carried him. Basically, he had to carry him through the crowd to do the table spot where New Jack did I don't think he did a table dive off a balcony, but he did jump off a balcony, I think, with a steel chair and crack a steel chair on Bam Bam's head. And Bam Bam did get busted open in that match the hard way. Up next, television champion Rob Van Dam and Sabu wrestled to a 30-minute time limit draw. This was a great match. I enjoyed it. And after this WrestlePalooza 98 pay-per-view, RVD and Sabu would go back to being tag team partners, and they would become ECW tag team champions in 98 before the next pay-per-view, Heat Wave 98. Main event was ECW World Heavyweight Champion Shane Douglas defeating Al Snow. Al Snow at the head. He had an epic entrance. If you watch WrestlePalooza on the network, check out Al Snow's entrance because it's awesome and it's epic. So Shane Douglas retains the ECW World title. No surprise there. Nobody thought Al Snow was going to win it, because Al Snow then headed back to the WWF, to the main roster of the WWF, after ECW and Paul Heyman basically got him over. So then Vince decided to use Al Snow again because he's still under WWF contract, I'm sure. So that was ECW WrestlePalooza. I don't think it was that long of a pay-per-view. It was probably, 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes maybe. But I really enjoyed WrestlePalooza 98, and if I watched it today, I would still enjoy it. Up next, I'm going to talk about WCW, or whatever pay-per-view is first. Maybe Over the Edge was first. I'll talk about WCW Slamboree 98 first, because it was before WWF Over the Edge 98, which I was at Over the Edge 98 live. I went to it. It was a pay-per-view, and it was in Milwaukee, my hometown. I was there. It was a great experience, and I'm glad I got to go. So now, WCW Slamboree 98 took place from Westchester, Massachusetts. And during this pay-per-view, Eric Bischoff on Nitro, he was sitting in the ring on a motorcycle and claimed he was the king of, king of wrestling, I guess, because he kicked Raw's ass for a year and a half, and he thought he's going to keep kicking their ass over and over and over and over. It was probably basically ego of Eric Bischoff to think that Nitro is going to keep beating Raw for years and years. Well, that did not happen, because Raw beat Nitro in 98 for the first time in a long time. And Bischoff was way too cocky, way too confident that Nitro was going to keep beating the fuck out of Raw. Bischoff was in the ring, claimed he was a king, and then he challenges Vince McMahon and tells him there's an open invitation for Vince to show up at Slamboree 98 to fight him. Obviously, everybody knew that Vince was not going to show up on a WCW pay-per-view. If he did, WCW Slamboree 98 buy rates would have been through the fucking roof, because everybody would have wanted to see what Vince was going to do to Bischoff. But he wasn't advertised. Bischoff just called him out, and it was basically just a publicity stunt by Bischoff. But I guess it was a smart move to do it, because maybe Bischoff and Slamboree 98 got a few more buys because people thought Vince was going to show up. So the first match was television champion Fit Finlay. Later on would go to the WWF and become just Finlay. I thought Finlay always had a great theme in the WWE. His song was like, "I'm Finlay and I love to fight." I enjoyed that theme song. So Finlay defeats Chris Benoit to retain the TV title. Pretty good match. Up next, Lex Luger defeated Brian Adams of the NWO. Nobody cared. Dean Malenko won a 15-man Cruiserweight Battle Royal under a mask. He was wearing a mask in the Cruiserweight Battle Royal. I forget the character of the mask he was wearing. I forget the character's name. Might have been Damien or something like that, or I don't know, whoever it was. Dean Malenko took the mask off and then got his title shot and called out Chris Jericho and said, "Jericho, I'm coming for you later on tonight." And so Jericho and Dean Malenko were feuding, and Malenko would not, Jericho I don't think would give him a title shot, so he had to wear a mask and be like one of the luchadors, and then to get the title shot, he won the Battle Royal to get his title shot. So then Dean Malenko defeated Chris Jericho to win the Cruiserweight title. Crowd loved it. They really were on the side of Dean Malenko, and they really popped when he won the title and when he won the Battle Royal and took the mask off. Up next, Eddie Guerrero with Chavo Guerrero Jr., his nephew, defeated Ultimo Dragon. Diamond Dallas Page defeated Raven in a steel cage match. I believe this was a weapons-filled cage. I forgot what they called it, a gimmick, some gimmick name of the cage match. I forgot what it was called, but it was like a cage with a lot of weapons in it. And DDP and Raven always worked really well together, I thought. And they put on a good match. Good cage match. Up next, U.S. champion Bill Goldberg. So he was already the U.S. champion by Slamboree 98. So that means he defeated Raven on Nitro before Slamboree. Bill Goldberg defeats Perry Saturn. This was a decent, pretty good match for Goldberg standards, because he wasn't a great worker. But the guy, I have to admit, like Goldberg or don't like him, the guy was super, super over, and he came around at the right time in WCW, and WCW really needed to create one of their own stars and quit taking talent from WWF. They finally created their own star in Goldberg, and he was really successful for a short time until Kevin Nash buried him and made him lose at Starrcade 98. In my opinion, Nash buried him. And there's a lot of stories behind the scenes that Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan were messing with Goldberg, messing with his head, backstage politics, all that bullshit. They were messing with Goldberg basically because he was new to the business, probably, and he didn't know what the hell. He was basically getting played by Hogan and Kevin Nash, the Puppet Masters. So I don't blame Goldberg. I mean, the guy was naive. He probably didn't want to get involved in backstage politics, and he just did not want to do that. And he was new to the business, so he probably didn't know they were probably screwing him behind his back. Up next, Bret Hart defeated Macho Man Randy Savage. This match would have been awesome if it was like 9 years earlier. If this match happened in 1990, it would have been awesome between Bret Hart and Randy Savage. But it didn't. It had to happen in 98, and it was not very good. But I really respect Bret Hart. Hell of a technical wrestler, one of the best in the world. One of the best of all time, and Macho Man Randy Savage, I love the guy and respected the hell out of him. But him and Bret did not have a good match. Randy Savage had a really messed up knee. He needed knee surgery, but he competed in the match anyways. He had a giant knee brace on. I believe Bret Hart even worked over his knee and put the figure 4 on Randy Savage on the ring post. So that was basically to write Randy Savage off of WCW television He would not come back until the middle, until like I don't know, March or April or May of I think he came back as a special referee at Spring Stampede '99, so that was April '99. So Randy Savage was out of action for 11 months, and then he would come back in April '99. So Bret Hart defeats Randy Savage by DQ. Up next was Sting and the Giant defeating the World Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to win the tag team titles. And Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And I believe Dusty even got involved and got on the ring apron, and Sting punched him and knocked him off the ring apron. So I guess the World Tag Team titles was the main event of Slamboree because it ended the show. Slamboree 98, decent pay-per-view, pretty good. Wasn't great, but I thought it was good. Now I'm going to talk about WWF Over the Edge 98 pay-per-view from May 31st, 98, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was there in attendance. I had pretty good seats, and it was awesome. I was happy to be there. I wanted to be there, and I wanted to get tickets, and I was very happy I did get tickets because I really wanted to see Stone Cold Steve Austin in person, because I was a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, and I was a pretty big DX fan also. LOD 2000 kicked off Over the Edge, and they got a pretty damn good pop, because the Road Warriors always were loved in Wisconsin and Milwaukee. They were always loved because they worked for the AWA in the 80s in Minnesota, and the Road Warriors would come to Milwaukee, and AWA would put on a lot of shows in Milwaukee, and the Road Warriors were on them. So they were always over with the Milwaukee fan base. The Milwaukee wrestling fans, the Road Warriors were always over. I was at couple shows where the Road Warriors were on the shows, and they always got a huge reaction. LOD 2000, as I said, they defeat the DOA. Jeff Jarrett, up next, defeated Steve Blackman. Nobody cared about this match. The entire arena was pretty damn quiet. Mark Merrill, up next, defeated Sable after telling her that he would lay down and allow her to pin him without doing anything. He basically screwed her and grabbed her, pulled her over on her shoulders. 1, 2, 3, Mark Merrill beat Sable, and Sable, the stipulation was Sable had to leave the WWE now forever, or the WWF forever. But she would return, I think in early June or early June, I think Sable would come back, and she claimed on Raw Vince McMahon hired her back, and basically Vince hired her back because he was like using Sable as like a slave to do whatever he wanted or something like that. I don't remember the specifics of the storyline, but Sable said Vince McMahon hired her back after they talked. Whatever. Sable is pretty over. At Over the Edge 98, she got a pretty damn good reaction. Up next, Kai defeated Takamichi Noku and Bradshaw. This match didn't get a great reaction, but Taka did get a pretty good reaction. Intercontinental Champion The Rock defeated Farouk when he put his feet on the ropes to retain the Intercontinental Championship. The Rock was hated as a heel. He was really hated at Over the Edge 98. Crowd was chanting, "Die, Rocky, die. Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks." They didn't like The Rock at all. But then The Rock would become really loved. Before Survivor Series 98, The Rock would become really loved as a babyface before he turned heel again to join the corporation. So he defeats Farouk. And then I think after the match, Farouk power drove The Rock, and The Rock was laying in the ring like he was injured, and they had to put a neck brace on him, and I think they took him out on a stretcher, if I remember right. Up next, Kane defeated Vader. And this might have been mask versus mask. I think it was. And it was really stupid and idiotic to say mask versus mask, because Vader already, you could already see Vader's entire face through his mask. So that was pointless to say mask versus mask, because we could already see Vader's fucking face. You stupid idiot WWE writer, whoever came up with that, probably was Vince Russo. That was an idiotic stipulation to the match. Kane defeats Vader, and this was Vader was headed out of the WWF shortly after this Over the Edge pay-per-view because they wanted him to lose weight, and I guess he couldn't lose it. So they released him from his contract in, I think, September or October 98. So Vader was gone shortly after Over the Edge 98. After the match, I am pretty sure someone told Vader to say this on the microphone in an interview with Michael Cole. Vader basically started putting himself down and swearing at himself and calling himself a piece of shit. I don't really remember what Michael Cole asked him, but Vader just said something like, "I'm just a big, worthless piece of shit." And then he walked away to the back. That was odd, and I didn't understand that. That was odd and weird. For him to do that, it really made no sense. Just putting himself down because he lost to Vader, so then he calls himself a fat piece of shit. That was stupid. They should have never done that. And there's probably a stupid writer that thought it'd be funny to basically make fun of Vader and put him down. So they told him to say that. But I guess he's okay with it because he agreed to say it. Up next, Owen Hart, D'Lo Brown, and Kama, the Nation of Domination, took on the team of DX, Triple H, and the New Age Outlaws. X-Pac was at ringside with DX, and he was not competing yet in any matches because I guess his neck was still injured. He didn't compete until June 98. So X-Pac was just at ringside with DX. When DX came out and they did their gimmick, they did their catchphrases on the microphone, it was super, super over. The entire crowd was chanting. They're basically chanting along with every catchphrase. They were repeating it. New Age Outlaws did their gimmick on the microphone, said, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D-Generation X." And Road Dogg did all that stuff. Said, "World Tag Team Champions of the World," and the crowd loved it. They were with the DX 100%. And then Triple H did his thing on the microphone. "Are you ready?" I said, "Are you ready?" And then he said, "Let's get ready, suck it." The entire crowd loved DX in Milwaukee at Over the Edge. I was there. The reaction was really, really loud to DX. As I said, but the Nation gets a victory over Triple H and the New Age Outlaws. The Nation gets a victory. Owen Hart joining the Nation of Domination. Very odd move because he's white. I don't understand why they thought to put Owen in the Nation. I guess they did it because they had nothing else for Owen Hart to do on the show. They didn't know what else to do with Owen Hart. So they decided, let's put him in the Nation. And then I think in July 98, July, August, I guess Owen Hart was out of the Nation because he's hanging out with Dan Severn, the Beast. Dan Severn. Very early days of UFC, Dan Severn was pretty dominating in UFC. Anyways, July pay-per-view, fully loaded. Owen Hart wrestled Ken Shamrock in the Hart family house in the dungeon. They had a dungeon match. It was pretty cool to see that dungeon match in the Hart family basement, the dungeon where Stu Hart trained so many legends and Hall of Famers. So they have a dungeon match, and I don't think Owen Hart was in the Nation after that anymore. And then at SummerSlam, he continued his feud with Ken Shamrock as they had the first ever Lions Den match at SummerSlam 98. That was pretty damn entertaining. So, the Nation, as I said, defeats DX. Up next was the main event. WWF Championship on the line. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Dude Love, and Vince McMahon was the special guest referee to try to screw Stone Cold. Pat Patterson, I think, was the guest timekeeper, part of the corporation, and Gerald Briscoe, I think, was the ring announcer or something, or maybe Gerald Briscoe was the timekeeper and Pat Patterson was a special ring announcer. Anyways, The Undertaker ends up coming out. He chokeslams Pat Patterson through the table at ringside. And I think he punched out Briscoe or something. Or Briscoe ran. And then Dude Love, the finish, Dude Love accidentally hits Mr. McMahon with a steel chair. Vince then blades and bleeds a little bit. And then Vince is knocked out cold, laid out, Stone Cold, I believe, low blows, kicks Dude Love in the nuts, low blows him, then stunners him. And Vince is still knocked out, so Stone Cold just grabs Vince's arm and goes 1, 2, 3 and counts the 3 count. So I guess they counted that as a victory for Stone Cold, but should have just been a disqualification. Anyway, Stone Cold wins the match and retains with a knocked out Vince McMahon, making the 3 count without even knowing he made the 3 count. So that was Over the Edge 98. Pretty, I was there, so I'm biased. I thought it was a great pay-per-view because I was there live, and there's a lot of energy in that crowd. It's probably 90% men in the audience. So, I mean, the Attitude Era, the crowds are basically, I mean, a lot of the wrestling crowds still are probably over 50% men because men just love wrestling and they follow it. But the crowds now, I'm sure, are full more of a lot of women that are into WWE and into pro wrestling. So, I'm biased to Over the Edge 98. I thought it was a great show because I was there live. But it wasn't the best pay-per-view. It wasn't better than WrestleMania 14. I'm just saying, Over the Edge 98 I thought was great. But I was there live again, so I'm biased. Anyways, this ends. I talked about 5 pay-per-view events. That's why this video is so long. Hope you enjoyed it. This was The Year in Wrestling video. This was The Year in Wrestling 1998 Part 3 video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll do Part 4 on 1998 probably on Saturday, probably tomorrow. I'll do Part 4 and put it up on my YouTube channel. And you can watch this video, The Year in Wrestling 1998 Part 3. You can also watch it on my Twitter. I will put it up and have it on my Twitter Friday evening or Friday night. I'll have it up there tonight because I'm not going anywhere tonight. I'm not going out to party or anything. I'm staying home tonight. So I'll put it up probably, and I'll have this video will be up by Friday night. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did not enjoy it, I don't care. Then don't watch my videos if you don't enjoy it. Anyways, have a great Friday night and weekend. Bye for now, everybody.